We're back for our daily NBA best bets here on Sunday, January 11th. We've got a bunch of games today in the association. And of course, we found our 5 best bets for today's action. Folks, before we get into the video, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for some more daily NBA best bets here on the channel. Yesterday, we dominated with the player props, so there was that. The games themselves, Boston didn't play all that well. They didn't get any favors from the refs, but that's neither here or there. Chicago beats Dallas, and then Utah +5. Haha, might be the worst bet of all time. I apologize for that one. Charlotte Hornets beat the Utah Jazz 150-95. First quarter was 45-14. I was like, hi, this one's over. But it was a classic Jazz tanking game, kind of. They started Kevin Love, which, all right. I think Cody Williams now owns the single game record for worst plus minus of -60. Yeah, what a night for the Utah Jazz. Again, federal investigation. Someone please investigate the Jazz's front office for what they do every single season post Gobert and Mitchell era. Anyways, folks, before we get into the video, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for some more daily NBA best bets here on the channel. Again, earlier today, we posted our college basketball best bets, so go make sure to check that out. NFL Wildcard Weekend continues today. We've got predictions and best bets here on the channel for that. And also our UFC, our Greedo Plays MMA video for our futures bets for UFC in 2026 and the future champions, obviously, in the Ultimate Fighting Championship. Go make sure to check out that video. That's going to be linked in the description down below. Okay, on to the first of our 5 best bets for today in the NBA. Kicking things off with Jaylen Wells over 1.5 3-pointers. Again, it's all about opportunity and volume with player props. That's exactly what we're looking at tonight. Jaylen Wells has been a massive underachiever in the month of January so far, as he's only shooting 25% from beyond the arc. And you may ask, why are we going to bet on a guy who's shooting 25% from beyond the arc? Because he keeps on shooting the basketball, and Jaylen Wells is going to be a future star in the NBA. That's why. Jaylen Wells is still getting 28-ish to 30 minutes per night for the Memphis Grizzlies. This is a player who, on average, attempts about 7 3-point shots per night. And we can detail every single game he's played so far in January and the level of production and volume he sees. Production varies, obviously, but the volume does remain relatively the same for Jaylen Wells, and we only need him to hit 2 3-pointers tonight. Obviously, again, the line is reflected in that, with it being -145, and that's usually my limit on bets I'll do. But -145, I'll take it for a line that I really think is going to hit, because I gotta believe Jaylen Wells is going to be back in terms of shooting tonight, especially against the Brooklyn team, who, is all right, but not a great defensive team in the Brooklyn Nets. So Jaylen Wells, it's all about the volume. So far in January, we'll go back to the first game the Grizzlies played in Los Angeles against the Lakers. He goes 2 for 8 from beyond the arc for 6 points. Well, that hits though. Again, not a great statistical night at all for Wells, but primarily, and I say this all the time, the most of the shots Jaylen Wells takes is from the 3-point line. And when he's on from beyond the arc, I don't know if there's a better shooter in the league, legitimately. When Jaylen Wells catches fire and he's in rhythm, that dude does not miss from beyond the arc. Like I've said before, I think Jaylen Wells is one of the best set shot corner shooters in the NBA. It's just recently, obviously, he's struggled. But again, the Grizzlies know what they have. Second-year player out of Wazoo. They know what they have out of Jaylen Wells. They're going to keep feeding him in the corner because and he gets left in the corner, obviously, because a lot of the defensive attention goes away from Jaylen Wells. But once this guy does get hot and once this guy does start hitting his shots, he has a problem. So Memphis is going to continue to go to the well. Get what I did there? No? Nobody? Okay. They're going to continue to go to the well, though, with Jaylen Wells, because when that shot's going, obviously it keeps on hitting. So again, that first game in the year against the Lakers, 2 for 8 from beyond the arc, that hits though. Next game against the Lakers, 3 for 11. He played well. Jaylen Wells did that game despite the poor shooting night. Came on in the fourth quarter shooting the ball, but was attacking the rim pretty well in that game against the Lakers with no Ja Morant and company. Regardless, Wells goes 3 for 11 from beyond the arc in that second Lakers encounter, having 23 points in that matchup. Then against San Antonio, 2 for 7 from beyond the arc. 8 points. Again, those 2 3-pointers do it for us. Last 2 games, though, against Phoenix and OKC, both at the FedEx Forum in Memphis, Tennessee. Not great shooting nights for Wells. 1 for 6 in both of those games against Phoenix and OKC, scoring 9 points in the game on Wednesday against the Suns and scoring 10 points in that Friday game against the Oklahoma City Thunder. But again, it's all about volume. He's still getting 6 3-point shots per game, and that's low-key a low number for Wells. He usually gets more. We're looking at the 7 or the 8 3-point shots per game for Wells, and we only need 2 to go in. But say he only does actually get those 6 3-point shots. We need Jaylen Wells to shoot 33% from beyond the arc. I mean, he is a 33% 3-point shooter on the year, and that's even with the struggles he's seen as of late. I think we're going to be perfectly fine here with Wells. This is a Grizzlies team that has massively fallen off in the last week and a half, as they have now lost 4 out of their last, 6 out their last 7 games, with their only win randomly being the San Antonio Spurs. This is the team that dropped 4 in a row to Philadelphia, so Washington, Philadelphia, and the Lakers twice. Then they beat the Spurs at home, and then back-to-back losses at home to both the Suns and Thunder. Obviously, the Thunder had to come back from down big without Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Ultimately, OKC wins the game, but now Memphis is back at home against the Brooklyn Nets with no Ja Morant in the lineup. Morant out with the calf injury. They are nearing returns, I believe, from John Konchar and Zach Edey. Konchar's name's randomly coming up in trade discussions right now, which I don't know why, but soon Edey and Konchar should be back. They have been ruled out today, but again, those guys should be coming back for them. I don't know when Ty Jerome's ever going to be back. Same with Scottie Pippen Jr. and Brandon Clark, but this is still a banged up Grizzlies team, which once they get at full 100%, I think they can be dangerous. And again, there's been a lot of discussion about a Ja Morant trade. I'm really not going to get into it because I just don't know what team's going to bite on Ja. What team is going to take a chance on Morant at his lowest price? My guess, I don't know. I feel like the Clippers are going to try. I still think the Clippers are going to try to make that move. They're only a game out of the playoffs right now behind Memphis, and the Grizzlies have already shown we don't care about being in the play-in, so just want to put that out there. But in terms of tonight, I do believe Jaylen Wells is going to hit 2 3-pointers. You got to play the math, got to play the percentages. It's a line that likely hits. He's just been cold recently, but again, the volume is still there. The Grizzlies are still trusting in Jaylen Wells to shoot that 3-point shot, and I expect him to continue to shoot it tonight as well. Jaylen Wells over 1.5 3-pointers, minus 145 at home, and actually one of the early games at 12:30 over in Memphis, Tennessee. Get him prices $5 in Memphis today. Not shocked. Give me the Grizzlies, Jaylen Wells to go over 1.5 3-pointers. On now to our second best bet of the video, we move to our first spread of the day. You saw it in the thumbnail, and here we are. The Portland Trailblazers at home play a matinee game. That's the right term, right? They play an afternoon game at 3 o'clock over in Oregon against the New York Knicks. Sign me up with Portland. This is the team you just don't want to see. I mean, again, they are the trickiest team in the league, and the Knicks aren't used to these tricky, dicky shenanigans the Portland Trailblazers have. The Knicks don't play Portland often. Obviously, they play twice every season. It's the first matchup of 2 in this year between Portland and the Knicks. They'll meet again at the Garden. I'm actually in a couple weeks, in 19 days, over in New York on January 30th. But regardless, the Knicks aren't used to this Blazers ball. They're no longer the jail Blazers, obviously, because Chauncey Billups is now in federal prison, I think. But I think he is. But anyways, this Blazers team, man, they're dangerous, and the Knicks are not a good road team. New York, 7-10 on the road this season, if it matters. Portland, 10-9 at home this year, but the run currently the Blazers are on is nothing short of phenomenal. And you got to give a lot of credit to Danny Adjiva, who's likely staring down his first ever All-Star appearance this year. But the Portland Trailblazers going into this game have now won 7 out of their last 8 games, dating back to December 28th, where they beat Boston, beat Dallas on back-to-back nights, then lost in OKC expectedly, but then they went to New Orleans and won, to San Antonio and won, and 3 now consecutive victories at home in Portland against Utah, Houston, and Houston. I've been saying it all year long. Watch out for this Blazers team, and you just don't want to match up with Portland in Oregon. They are dangerous, and they find ways, regardless of if that's the offensive rebounding out of a guy like Donovan Clingan, or just the relentlessness to attack the basket and get to the rim out of a guy like Danny Adjiva, which he's done all year long. Portland is a problem. And again, a lot of that goes to Adjiva, who recently 34, 29, 33, and 41 points on a nightly basis. Added Danny Adjiva. Had an off night against Houston on Friday, only scoring 20, but Danny's averaging 26 points per game this year. And on top of that, 26, 7, and 7 for the fifth-year man. Adjiva is actually an all-star. Yes, the foul baiting is absurd. It's ridiculous. He has one of the best whistles in the entire association. You can't deny 26 points per game, though. He's kind of a forced star, but Danny is actually carrying this Blazers team, and it's a Blazers team that has been injured and is still injured. Guys, like the Memphis Grizzlies, I don't know when any of these guys are going to be back for Portland. I mean, these lingering injuries have just continued and continued for the Blazers. The one they might get back, though, is Jrue Holiday tonight. Don't know. Holiday has not played since November. That's obviously before the Blazers got really hot, and that's another factor on this team. I think Portland's kind of trying to win. They haven't felt winning in a while. Obviously, Dame is back, but obviously not playing this season. But they're trying to bring back, culture, at least winning culture, to Portland, Oregon. Jrue Holiday, 35 years of age, has played decent basketball this season for the Blazers, has not played since mid-November. Chance he comes back tonight, as Holiday is now officially listed as questionable tonight with that calf injury. But beyond that, there are more injuries that keep on plaguing Portland. Chris Murray out today with a back injury. Robert Williams questionable with the knee injury. Jeremy Grant has one of those lingering injuries alongside Jrue Holiday. Again, Grant out tonight with an Achilles injury. And then there's Scoot Henderson and Matisse Thybulle, who haven't played all year long. Scoot, I don't know when that guy's ever going to be back. I thought he was going to, they said he was 2 weeks away, 2 months ago. Tybal hasn't played since the beginning of the season. He's probably going to be in a limited role, just regardless of, not even just injury-wise. He'll probably just be in a limited role with this team. But I don't know when these guys are going to be back. Still, though, Portland's playing good enough basketball. And again, that's a lot of credit to Danny Adjeva, Donovan Clingan, Shaedon Sharpe, and Caleb Love off the bench. As for the New York Knicks, not a good road team. Not a good road team. They don't really play that well on the West Coast, as we've seen so far in this West Coast road trip. 0-1 for New York. They go to Phoenix on Friday, lose the game by 5 points. Again, you know what to expect on a nightly basis out of Jalen Brunson. Brunson is a very elite player in the sport. I completely understand. Beyond Brunson, though, the Knicks do have trouble. Brunson averaging 29 points per game. Again, one of the best and most efficient scorers in the entire NBA. Beyond him, you just don't get much help. Obviously, Karl-Anthony Towns is averaging 21 this season, and then you get Mikal Bridges, who's averaging 15. Same with OG Anunoby, and they're just not a deep team. Not really. I mean, sometimes they show their depth, not most of the time. Josh Hart's still out today, by the way, and I just don't trust New York to cover these points. Will they win? Maybe, but man, the streak the Blazers are on, it would not shock me at all if Portland straight up wins the basketball game, especially considering New York struggles on the road this season. They're on a West Coast trip, obviously going from New York to Portland is one of the longest flights you can take. They already had a stop down in the Southwest to the desert to take on the Phoenix Suns, and that game didn't go all that well for them. I think Portland's going to catch him here. Portland's going to catch them. It's that, when you don't know what to expect out of the Portland Trail Blazers, and if you aren't paying attention to the Blazers, which I'm sure the Knicks are not, the Blazers are obviously not a threat to the Knicks in the grand scheme of things, at least not this season and probably never, but still, the Knicks aren't really concerned about what's going on in Portland with the Blazers. Little do they know this team's been streaking. This team finds ways to win. They play physical defense. They work in transition. They get offensive rebounds. They create second chance opportunities. And again, when they get hot from three, statistically, the Blazers are a horrible three-point shooting team. But if they get hot from beyond the arc, boy, are they trouble. They keep on shooting and shooting and shooting, and eventually they find their touch, and a lot of credit needs to go to Shaedon Sharpe and Caleb Love for that. I'm going Portland plus 4.5. New York has struggled recently as the Knicks are coming into this game losing 5 of 6, with the only victory being at home against the Clippers, losses to the Spurs, Hawks, Sixers, Pistons, but win over the Clippers, and then a loss to Phoenix has them, kind of, I don't want to say falling off, but they're struggling going into the spot. They still have a long West Coast trip ahead as they have matchups on Wednesday and Thursday against the Kings and the Warriors in Northern California. I got to go with the Blazers here to cover the points. They're underdogs, and I will take the 4.5 for Portland at home, playing a competitive game against the New York Knicks. Move on now to our third best bet of the video. Going on now to our next player prop, our second player prop of the day, old reliable Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Give me SGA today. Over 30.5 points. Just not a lot for Shai. It's not that big of a line. I understand SGA had actually been struggling to go over this line until the 46-point performance against the Utah Jazz in overtime. It was a game that ended up earning SGA essentially a night off because Shai did not play their game against Memphis, a game that it looked like the Thunder were going to lose to the Grizzlies. Obviously, OKC finds a way to come back and win. Does that remind you of something? Obviously, the first round of the playoffs last year. Anyways, Shai is back. OKC obviously no longer chasing a historic season as, that ended pretty quickly. The Thunder are now 32-7, still definitely on pace to be the number 1 seed and by far the favorites to win the NBA championship. This does sound crazy, but plus 115, even as it stands for OKC right now, is phenomenal value on them to win the championship. I still remain adamant on the fact that team's not losing 4 games in a 7-game series. Are they beatable right now? Yes. But they're still not beatable in a 7-game series, especially when SGA is playing in the postseason. I don't believe so. Anyways, OKC has found a way to win recently. They've won 2 straight games after dropping those two to both Phoenix and Charlotte. The Thunder do go out and beat the Jazz in overtime, again with Shai dropping 46. SGA hits a game-tying mid-range shot to send them into overtime and then continues to do his thing in OT itself. And then a big win for the Thunder with J-Dub and company without SGA playing in Memphis against the Grizzlies. OKC returns home today against the Miami Heat. I expect a big Shai night. I do expect a really big SGA night tonight. Shai's three-point shooting has taken a turn for the worse recently. SGA has been really inconsistent from the three-point line. It's always a part, we've always talked about this with SGA. He's still a 40% three-point shooter this season, don't get me wrong, but SGA's entire thing has always been, great defender. He can drive, he can get to the rim against anybody. Mid-range shots, one of the best I've ever seen in NBA history. The three-point shot, though, is still lacking a little bit. SGA so far in January has struggled with the three. He's shooting 20% from beyond the arc, went 1 for 5 from 3 against the Suns, 1 for 6 from 3 against the Hornets, and 1 for 8 from 3 against the Jazz. Despite the 1 for 8 from 3 against Utah, SGA still scored 46 points. I know what you can say, well, 17 free throws. Still, SGA is doing his thing, and he's scoring, and he averages 32 points per game, and obviously he's by far the favorite to walk away with the MVP award this year. So Shai's back in the lineup. I know, again, the Warriors game, 30 points. Suns, 25. Charlotte game, 21. The explosive 46-point performance against the Utah Jazz. I would expect a big night out of SGA today for the Thunder against the Heat. He's back coming off of rest at home. This just feels like a really big Shai day. Shai day, wow. Again, guys, Shai, I always say this too, like Shai is very aware of what's going on. He's aware of his averages. He's aware of, where he's at in the MVP race, where he's at in the points per game conversation. I know, again, SGA, he acts very humble, and I'm sure he is, but Shai wants to win the MVP. That's obvious, obviously he does. Shai wants to remain at the top of the sport, obviously, and he's not going to chase down Luka Doncic for points per game because Luka's only at a 33 and a half, SGA at 32. Regardless, Shai's always going to try to keep his average afloat. He's, you've heard him say it before, 30 points is just a night for him. That's what he said in the Netflix documentary. Obviously expects more. And I think coming off the 46-point game against the Utah Jazz, there's a lot of favorable matchups I see for Shai tonight against the Miami Heat. And additionally, too, you can just rely on Shai to score against really any team in the league. But a Miami team that is coming off the second night of a back-to-back after losing in Indiana yesterday to the Pacers. They gave up 123 points against the lowly Pacers, who have now put together a couple wins. Don't look now. Carlisle is at 1,001 victory in the career. Hell yeah. But a Miami team that has not won a basketball game in a week since January 4th against New Orleans. Obviously, not their fault. They couldn't play against Chicago due to the condensation on the court a couple days ago. But back-to-back L's for Miami going into this game, losing in Minnesota, losing in Indiana. And this is another big deal, too, is why I think Shai's going to see some sluggish defenders, I shall say. Again, he'll see matchups with Davion Mitchell, Tyler Hero, and Norman Powell. Regardless, second night of a back-to-back for Miami and the very end of an 8-day road trip. They've been on the road for quite a bit. There's going to be some tired legs on the court tonight for the Heat. Obviously, there's a reason the Thunder are a 13.5-point favorite today, the biggest favorite on the schedule. Actually, the Suns are 13.5 as well against the Wizards. But regardless, very obviously tanking Wizards. But Shai is going to get his points tonight. Shai is going to get his production, and I think we see a 35-ish point night out of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Now, I do want to say this too, like the SGA 20-point streak, is that the new LeBron 10-point streak? Because SGA, I think he's approaching the record, right? I think he's fairly close to it. I know Wilt Chamberlain has it. SGA is now over 100 games. Wilt is at, or does Shai already have it? He might already have it. I'm not sure. Does he have it already? Regardless, Shai's very aware of the 20-point streak, and it's just, no, I think Wilt still has more. I think he does. I believe Wilt still got more. Regardless, though, this all-time scoring stuff from Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is absurd. Oh, here it is. Wilt's at 126. SGA hit 100, I believe, in December. So I believe he's got to be approaching this fairly soon. Obviously, he's going to hit it this season. I don't see any, stopping Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. But another factor I do want to point out, the Thunder are going to try, they're trying to get ready for that San Antonio game on Tuesday. Last time they're going to see San Antonio until February. We're going to play one more time in San Antonio because they play them 5 times this season because of the Cup. But that's a massive game for OKC. They don't want to be 0-4 against the Spurs going into one final game in San Antonio later in the year. I think it's pretty clear this is going to be, I think everyone feels like this is going to be the Western Conference Finals. Again, I have my doubts. I have a feeling San Antonio might get upset before that. And that's why I think, people might question OKC's run later in the year when they don't have to play the Spurs in the Western Conference Finals. But that's a game they are trying to get ready for, and they are going to be buzzing getting ready for that Spurs game on Tuesday. So give me SGA over tonight, 30.5 should come easy, -110 for the best player in the league and the MVP, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. On to our 4th best bet of the video. We move now to a money line. Let's go to Denver, Colorado for the Milwaukee Bucks and the Denver Nuggets. So the Los Angeles Lakers the other night were on the wrong side of a Milwaukee Bucks win because the Lakers just pissed me off. There's no other way to put it. I hate watching that team play basketball, yet I still do it every day. So it is what it is. But A huge win for the Bucks against the Los Angeles Lakers, and Denver yesterday playing the Atlanta Hawks Friday playing the Atlanta Hawks, and laying a complete egg. They score 87 points against Atlanta, losing 110-87. I understand a very injured Denver team going into that one, and they're relying on the scoring of Peyton Watson, it feels like at this point. We'll see who plays tonight for Denver because Jamal Murray obviously did not give it a go against Atlanta. Murray questionable tonight alongside Spencer Jones. Both Aaron Gordon and Christian Brown are probable for tonight's game, but again, that's a massive factor, obviously, in a very injured Denver team. I obviously am not mentioning the two centers that are out, obviously, in the former MVP and Nikola Jokic and Jonas Valanciunas. On top of that, Cam Johnson, who is still out for at least the foreseeable future. I don't think this injured Denver team is beating Milwaukee. Milwaukee, ever since they've kind of not straight up said it, but the feeling is that Giannis Antetokounmpo is coming back, or at least not come back, is staying for the rest of the year. They're not going to be trading Giannis at the deadline. I don't really think any team I don't think any team has the value to offer Milwaukee to bring Giannis over. Regardless of all that, though, ever since Giannis has come back, and it's kind of felt like the Bucks have somewhat locked in a little bit, and they're going to try to make their run. I believe the team they're going to bump out is going to be Atlanta, out of the top 10. I think Chicago is going to find a way to stay afloat. I'm so serious. I think the Hawks are going to be the team that's going to get bumped out of all of this. The team that just traded Trae Young and, we want Anthony Davis. Obviously, that's not going to happen anymore. Regardless, we'll see if the Hawks try to buy. I think they're going to, which I don't think is smart, but whatever, who cares? I think Milwaukee is going to find their way back in the play-in. I was very hesitant on that for most of the year. Didn't know what Giannis's condition was going to be. I still don't think the supporting cast is good at all, but the Bucks have won 3 of 4 going into this game, winning against the Hornets at home by 1 point, going to Sacramento and dismantling the Sacramento Kings, losing to the Golden State Warriors in San Francisco, and then obviously they had every big-time shot against the Lakers. And of course, it was Miles Turner who hit the game-winning 3. Not really. Jake LaRavia hit a 3 on the other side, but Milwaukee kept on making shots. Good on them. They win, come back from behind against Los Angeles. Good on the Bucks for winning the game. The only injury tonight on the report for the Bucks is Kevin Porter Jr., but KPJ is probable, so we're likely getting a full-strength Milwaukee team. Obviously, still no Taurean Prince for this team, but a fairly, 100% squad going into this one for Darvin Ham and Doc Rivers' team in Milwaukee. Giannis is playing phenomenal basketball. What can I say? Ryan Rollins struggled massively against the Lakers, yet his team still wins, and Ryan Rollins found ways to get buckets in the clutch, at least at the free throw line. Giannis didn't even have a great game against Los Angeles. He's only scored 21, and yet his team still won. KPJ led Milwaukee in scoring with 22, and they just found big-time threes. They were able to shoot 35% from beyond the arc. AJ Green hit some big threes. Ryan Rollins hit 1 3. Kevin Porter Jr. hit 1 3, and Miles Turner, who not a fan of, hit 2 big three-pointers in that game. When it mattered, there was a big, 3 to end a big run from the Lakers that Miles Turner hit, and one in the corner in the fourth quarter. Obviously, LaRavia went on to match it right away, but Miles Turner did actually come in and hit some big shots. He doesn't do anything else of note, though. The guy sucks at basketball, but whatever. Anyways, Milwaukee has been in some trade conversations recently, at least some rumors that maybe they'll look to get a center, or maybe they'll look to get a Zach LaVine. Oddly enough, I think the LaVine move actually kind of makes sense for this team. Milwaukee is set on trying to compete, or Jeremy Grant's been another name they're talking about getting. Cool. I think it actually does make sense for Milwaukee, considering where you're at. You try to get anything possible to keep Giannis around, and some guys in Jeremy Grant and Zach LaVine who are both overpaid, but guys who got to get paid by somebody, you might as well bring them in and try to make a championship run with those guys. Although the Bucks, if they make it, are not getting out of the first round. At least specifically for tonight, though, they should be able to beat Denver. A Denver team where they're just a different squad with Jamal Murray off and on the court. Against Atlanta, again, a still injured Aaron Gordon came off the bench, scored 14 points in 24 minutes. But it's brutal for Denver when they're hurt, when Christian Brown is starting, but going 0 for 5 from the field and scoring 0 points, and you're relying on a guy in Peyton Watson to lead you in scoring. Nothing against Watson. He's played fairly well because of the injuries or since the injuries, but Watson being your leading scorer, playing 34 minutes and scoring 25 points, that's great, but obviously that's not sustainable in winning games. And you saw that down the stretch. Atlanta came through, outscoring Denver 36-12 in the fourth quarter. Again, Atlanta was well in control of that basketball game for the most part. Denver did have their moments, though. Early in the fourth quarter, they were in it, and obviously Atlanta just ran away with it in the fourth. Actually, game was tied. I think Denver had a slight lead by 1 point at some point in that fourth, but obviously Jaylen Johnson and the Hawks were able to win. So, again, a massive part and a massive piece of this game is Jamal Murray and Jamal Murray's status. I don't, if he plays, he plays. He's not going to be 100%, or at least he's not going to play 100% of his minutes. I think it's a great spot for Milwaukee. Giannis is playing good basketball right now. Milwaukee struggled massively, by the way, to get the ball to Giannis in the low post against the Lakers, which is a little surprising because the Lakers didn't have any solution to stop Giannis down low. That was the thing. So, anyways, against a team that doesn't really play defense in Denver, Milwaukee should be able to win. You know the deal. Giannis drives, 4 shooters on the perimeter. Works eventually. Give me the Bucks. Not a fan. Call it Victor Oladipo. Just dropped 26 points the other night for the Oshkosh Milwaukee Herd. Just saying. But give me the Bucks. I think Milwaukee wins at -130. Please bring Oladipo back to the NBA. Anyways, on to our final best bet of the video. We go to the Golden One Center in Sacramento, California, the state capital, obviously, of California. Give me the Kings. For the 3rd consecutive game for the Houston Rockets, we will be fading them. Last 2 games, it's been because of the Portland Trailblazers. Today, it's because of the Sacramento Kings. Yeah, no, legitimately, there's a reason to this, though. Houston's on the very end of this road trip. They've been on the road for quite a bit. 2 games in Portland. 1 game in Sacramento. They get to go home after this game. This team is, I think, wanting to get the hell out of the West Coast. They want to get back to Texas. They have a game on Tuesday scheduled against the Chicago Bulls before a huge matchup on Thursday in their 2nd encounter with the Oklahoma City Thunder since opening night in OKC in that double overtime thriller that the Thunder won. I think the Rockets are kind of just done with this road trip. Will they beat the Kings? Yeah, probably. It is meaningful, though, to talk about the last Kings versus Rockets game, the 2nd of the two games they played so far this year. I was in attendance, the only Kings game I've been to so far this year. I don't live that close to Sacramento, but regardless, right? Kings at home against Houston. We thought Houston was going to blow that team out the water. Why wouldn't I? They were up. They were dominating for 3 quarters until the 4th quarter came, and oddly enough, here came the Kings. Houston was up 9 points at the end of the 3rd quarter. I think they were 10.5-point favorites, 11.5-point favorites. I was feeling fairly great about my spread, until the Kings just continued to hit shots and hit more shots with Dennis Schroeder, with Russell Westbrook, with Keegan Murray. Now, no Keegan Murray tonight, still out for multiple weeks. Dennis Schroeder is suspended for confronting and threatening Luka Doncic. He's out for 3 games, which means Schroeder will not be playing against Luka on Monday. The Kings have a back-to-back. They play the Lakers tomorrow. No Schroeder for that matchup. That would have been entertainment. But regardless, no Schroeder. Does play big minutes for Sacramento. Comes off the bench. We're just going to see more Russell Westbrook minutes, which, I guess, right? Good on Sacramento for trying. They're not trying. The players are trying, I'll tell you that. Because Sacramento tonight, oh my goodness, what are they going to throw out there? Well, you're likely going to see a lot of DeMar DeRozan just chucking up mid-range shots. You're going to see Russ, DeMar, Levine is back. He's been back. Keon Ellis might be a future Laker. Maxime Reynaud. Off the bench, Malik Monk is never in favor with Doug Christie, but I think he's going to have to play a lot today. Dylan Cardwell, Nick Clifford, and likely a Precious Achua. Maybe Devin Carter probably has to take the Schroeder minutes. Great. That's what we're going to see out of Sacramento. I think the big thing, though, going into this one is Sacramento's ability to just stay in it and score points. They're at home. It's a Sunday night game. What happened last time what was the exact same situation last time they played the Rockets? A Sunday night game in Sacramento. Weird, but yeah, it was. It was a Sunday night game in Sacramento. That crowd showed up back in December. They're probably going to show up again tonight. KD's back in town. The Kings still do fairly great attendance, even though they suck. So I'll give credit to the Sacramento fans. And all fans like, what is there to do in Sacramento? Absolutely nothing. But there's going to be a crowd. The Kings should be rolling a little bit, and they did it last game. They didn't just cover the points last time against the Rockets at home. No, they won the game, and that was with Alfred Şengün in the lineup. But that's another big factor in this one. Is Şengün playing, or is he not? Şengün has been injured for a little bit at this point now. Got injured in their matchup against the Dallas Mavericks. Only played 1 minute back in Dallas on January 3rd. Has not played since. He's questionable to play tonight against the Kings. My guess is no. He's been on the road trip, obviously, but if you're the Rockets and if you're Şengün, you think you can likely beat Sacramento without him. I understand you lost the last encounter, but I mean, hell, Vegas is telling you outright that you're a -620 favorite to win the basketball game. So you're expecting to beat Sacramento, even though you've lost back-to-back against Portland. You're expecting to win this game. You don't really need Şengün to give it a go tonight. And as well, Şengün, why wouldn't you just bring him back for the home stretch? They're coming back home in 2 days. They're playing Chicago before that massive matchup we talked about against the Thunder. Then they played the Timberwolves the night after. Obviously, we don't expect Şengün to play both nights of the back-to-back, but I just don't see the point in bringing back Şengün for a game in Sacramento. Yes, they need some momentum because they've lost 3 of 4, losing to Dallas, Portland, and then winning that game in between against the Phoenix Suns. So they are 1-3 without Şengün, but I just don't think this is the night he returns. It's a game that, if I'm Houston, I feel like we should win. Will they cover, though? That's a different story. Kevin Durant's still playing phenomenal basketball. Don't get me wrong. KD has been playing extremely well, especially in those 2 games in Portland. Durant's still a bucket every single night. 2 games against Portland, 37 and 30 points respectively. Durant's averaging 26 points per game at 37 years old. This is phenomenal stuff out of Durant. How much can he continue to carry this team, though? By the way, Tari Eason out for this game as well. So Houston is going to be without 2 starters tonight. Technically 3 if you count Fred VanVleet. Obviously, he's been out for the entire year. But 2 permanent or 2 2025, 2026 starters out tonight for the Rockets, likely in Eason and Şengün. I can't see a world where Şengün actually plays tonight. And that's why I got to go with Sacramento. A lot actually is just going the Kings' way tonight. And I do believe they're able to pick up the spread, not win. I'd kind of shocked if they win back-to-back against the Rockets, but this is a familiar matchup for Sacramento. You do replace Dennis Schroeder and Keegan Murray with Zach LaVine, who doesn't play defense, but you know what? We'll take it. I'm gonna go with Sacramento here. I'm gonna go with Sacramento. I just feel like the points these are just too many points for the Rockets to cover. I'm gonna go plus 12.5 at home at the Golden One Center for the Sacramento Kings to cover again against the Houston Rockets. Folks, thank y'all for watching our NBA Best Bets here on January 11th. If you have not yet, though, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy the video, and make sure to comment if you disagree with any of the picks. We'll be back tomorrow for more daily NBA Best Bets, and go make sure to check out our college basketball Best Bets, which were dropped earlier today as well. Folks, thank y'all for watching. Make sure that subscribe button down below for more, and Mamba forever.